Hi everyone. Today we are going to discuss a very important topic about a particular video that's very useful from all perspectives, from all exams point of view. Those who are preparing for competitive exams, or they are in college, universities, or wherever they are, and they are thinking to crack civil service exams, whether central level or at a state level. It's quite useful, and for international relations students or PSIR, or otherwise also for any general studies perspective. In today's video, the topic of this is all about United Nations from exams perspectives, IAS, PCS, or Bpsc exams 2025 or 2026 for GSPT and MENS and essay papers. This will be a mandatory for all competitive exams and civil services. So this is how we are going to start over this. Everybody knows this United Nations, this topic. Almost every student is aware about this who are graduate or even 10th, 11th level. What is important today is this particular video will cover almost entire part, essential part, which comes generally in the exams, be it PT, mains, interview, essay, in all perspectives. It will be quite helpful. Therefore, we are going to discuss on this, and we will start from introductory part. When we talk about introduction, how it happened, when it happened, then we would say the United Nations is an international organization established on October 24, 1945 in the aftermath of World War II, and its primary objectives are to maintain international peace and security, develop friendly relations among nations, promote social progress, better living standards, and uphold human rights. The UN was founded by 51 countries committed to these goals today, and it comprises over 193 member states. Yes, and the UN operates through 6 principal organs in general, like when you talk about General Assembly, Security Council, Economic and Social Council, also ECOSOC, International Court of Justice, ICJ, Secretariat, Trusteeship Council. Say for example, when we talk about General Assembly, what it is? Actually, this is a forum where all member states have equal representation to discuss and coordinate on international issues. Yes. And when we talk about Security Council, then you will see this is responsible for maintaining international peace and security with 5 permanent members holding veto powers. And third, we go for ECOSOC. It coordinates economic, social, and related work of the UN and its specialized agencies. Going for International Court of Justice, better known as ICJ, settles legal disputes between states and gives advisory opinions on legal questions. When you go for Secretariat, it carries out the day-to-day work of the UN, headed by the Secretary General. And regarding Trusteeship Council, established to oversee trust territories and ensure that adequate steps were taken to prepare the territories for self-governance and independence. Its operations have been suspended since 1994 following the independence of Palau the last remaining UN trust territory.
Yes.
Further, the UN's headquarters is located in New York City with additional offices in Geneva, Vienna, and Nairobi. Over the decades, the UN has played a crucial role in conflict resolution, humanitarian assistance, and the promotion of sustainable development. Now, what is sustainable development? Well, the development continues, it remains dynamic, it keeps on going, not it stops. And when we talk about the League of Nations and the United Nations, yes, both can be considered as pivotal international organizations and established in the 20th century. This 20th century with the primary aim of maintaining global peace and security. While the League was a pioneering effort post World War I and the UN emerged after World War II, learning from the League's, and of course it had many shortcomings when we talk about League of Nations. In that way, sometimes questions can be asked, a comparative analysis of the League of Nations and the United Nations. Why that failed, and how far this UN is doing today in this contemporary world, in the post-pandemic world, and when the world is passing through conflict situations, be it from South Asia, conflict between India and Pakistan, China, and now a new neighboring country, threat perceptions. Or further, we can talk about Ukraine and Russia crisis. Going by the origins and establishment about League of Nations, yes, it was founded on January 10, 1920 as part of the Treaty of Versailles. And the League, what was meant for that? Yes, it was meant for preventing future conflicts following the devastation of World War I. Despite being championed by US President Woodrow Wilson, the US never joined, which significantly weakened the League's influence. And when you compare, as I'm talking about the comparative analysis between the League of Nations and the United Nations. On the other hand, United Nations established on October 24, 1945, after World War II, the UN was created to rectify the failures of the League. It was founded with broader participation, including major powers like the US, USSR, now Russia, and China, ensuring greater global representation and commitment. Further, then what was the objective and what was the mandate? The League of Nations actually aimed to promote international cooperation and achieve peace and security by preventing wars through collective security and disarmament. On the other hand, United Nations, it also seeks to maintain international peace and security, develop friendly relations among nations, achieve international cooperation, and be a center for harmonizing the actions of nations in attaining these common goals. When we talk about organizational structure, in this case, League of Nations, Assembly was there, Council was there, Secretariat was there, while going for United Nations, General Assembly, Security Council, ECOSOC, all we discussed just before that. And Security Council, 15 members, it consists of 5 permanent members with veto power and 10 non-permanent members, all responsible for maintaining peace and security so far Security Council is concerned. And then regarding ECOSOC, we had discussed about this. It addresses various global issues ranging from economic development to legal disputes related to ICJ. And further we go regarding decision making process. League of Nations heavily relied on unanimity for decisions, which often led to inaction and efficiency. On the other hand, United Nations, you can say better version of League of Nations, implies majority voting in the General Assembly and grants veto power to the 5 permanent members of the Security Council, allowing for more decisive action and sometimes hindered by geopolitical interest. Related to membership and inclusivity, League of Nations had 58 member states at its peak. Notable absentees included the US, which affected its legitimacy and effectiveness, being the great power. United Nations, when we talk about, currently has over 193 member states comprising almost all sovereign nations and making it a truly global organization. Do you agree with this? Yes, we can say yes. And now we'll go for conflict resolution and effectiveness. So far, the comparative study between the two is concerned. And we'll discuss about this further. So friends, we are discussing about conflict resolution and effectiveness, how these two organizations have been, particularly League of Nations, how it played and how UN is playing. When we talk about League of Nations lacked a standing military force and depended on collective security agreements, which were often ineffective as it happens. When we talk about United Nations has the authority to deploy peacekeeping missions and authorize collective military action through the Security Council, providing a more robust mechanism for conflict resolution. And so far effectiveness and legitimacy is concerned, the League of Nations in this connection failed to prevent aggression by Axis powers, leading to World War II and its inability to enforce decisions and the absence of key global players contributed to its ineffectiveness. On the other hand, when we talk about the UN, it played, while not without criticism, the UN has played a significant role in decolonization, conflict resolution, humanitarian aid, and promoting human rights, and marking a more successful legacy in compared to its predecessor when you talk about. And so in this connection, so when we talk about League of Nations, definitely in that connection it failed. It failed to prevent aggression by Axis powers, leading to World War II, as you know, and its inability to enforce decisions and the absence of key global powers contribute to its ineffectiveness, as we discussed. However, when we talk about United Nations, obviously it's equipped much better so far effectiveness is concerned than our League of Nations. And when we sum up this conflict resolution and effectiveness, the transition from the League of Nations to the United Nations represents an evolution in international diplomacy and collective security. By learning from the by league's shortcomings, the UN has established more effective structures and mechanisms to address global challenges, making it a more resilient and impactful organization in the quest for world peace. Yes, that's true. And let us go for the next topic of this under this you can say subheading, the Atlantic Charter efforts at funding the UN. The Atlantic Charter efforts, it was main effort for funding the UN, and obviously it has significance. 1941 declaration by Roosevelt and Churchill outlining post-war goals emphasized self-determination, advocated for economic cooperation, called for disarmament. And the very purpose of the UN was improvement upon the League. Advancements, of course, broader membership, enforcement mechanisms and scope. And the purpose, as an example, you can say peacekeeping missions, international criminal tribunals, comprehensive development programs. Yes. And going further, then the League of Nations and the establishment of the United Nations. Lessons from the League of Nations influenced the UN's structural objectives. On the failure of League of Nations, some improvements were made, like inclusion of major powers, creation of specialized agencies, enhanced conflict resolution and mechanism. However, when we talk about challenges, structure of this international organization, like funding shortage, political disagreements, and enforcement limitations. Yes, that delay member contributions, veto power in the Security Council, and limited authority in sovereign nations. And when you talk about structure and functions of the UN, then we can say a role, need and importance of the UN when you talk about so far the structure and function is concerned. Central platform for international diplomacy and cooperation, facilitating peace negotiations, coordinating humanitarian aid, setting international norms. And when we talk about main organs of the UN and the roles, components like General Assembly, Security Council, ECOSOC, ICJ, Secretariat, Trusteeship Council, as we had discussed earlier. So we will not go much in details about this. And regarding Security Council membership and maintenance of international peace and security, earlier discussed, consists of 15 members, 5 permanent with veto powers, 10 non-permanent. Example, authorizing peacekeeping missions, imposing sanctions, mandating ceasefires. And so far role is concerned, hold veto powers, significant impact on decisions. As an example, blocking resolutions, shaping international responses, negotiating major agreements. And then various organizations of UN, like UNHCR, United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees, mandate, protect and support refugees. Then UNDP, United Nations Development Program, focus, eradicate poverty and reduce inequalities. WTO, World Trade Organization, objectives, regulate international trade. Example, facilitating trade negotiations, resolving trade disputes. and monitoring trade policies. Then IMF, International Monetary Fund, purpose ensure global financial stability. And BRD, World Development and IDA, International Development Association, fund development projects in low income countries, collaboration among agencies, synergy, joint efforts to maximize impact, challenges in international development. What are the challenges for this? Funding gaps, political instability, and coordination issues. Success, achievements, tangible improvements in various sectors like reduction in global poverty rates, increased literacy levels, enhanced access to clean water, and when we talk about introduction and importance of international organizations, interpretations and meanings, actually international organizations are cities, rather entities, we must say this. So international organizations are entities formed by agreements between sovereign states to collaborate on common interests and objectives. These organizations can be intergovernmental, involving only countries, or include non-governmental organizations that operate across borders. They serve as platforms for dialogue, cooperation, and coordination on issues that transcend national boundaries, such as peacekeeping, health, and environmental protection. By facilitating collective action, they aim to address global challenges more effectively than individual nations acting alone. Example: United Nations established in 1945 to promote international peace and security, and so far the League of Nations as predecessors to the UN. Yes, it was established after World War I and was the first international organization aimed at maintaining world peace, although it ultimately failed to prevent World War II. It laid the groundwork for the creation of the United Nations by highlighting the need for a more robust and inclusive international body. The League's experiences informed the structure and functions of the UN, emphasizing the importance of collective security and international cooperation. Example: addressed territorial disputes, mediated conflicts like the island disputes between Finland and Sweden, facilitated disarmament discussions, organized conferences to promote arms reduction, laid groundwork for international labor standards, and established the International Labour Organization (ILO). Purposes of the UN: improvement upon the League of Nations. Yes, the United Nations was established to rectify the shortcomings of the League of Nations by creating a more effective and inclusive international organization. The UN aims to maintain international peace and security, develop friendly relations among nations, and promote social progress, better living standards, and human rights. Its structure allows for broader participation and more robust mechanisms to address global challenges. Example: peacekeeping missions, deploying forces to conflict areas to maintain peace, international criminal tribunals, establishing courts to prosecute war crimes, and comprehensive development program, implementing initiatives to reduce poverty and promote education. Need and importance of the UN. The point is, what there is a need of this. The United Nations was established to promote international peace, security, and cooperation among nations. In an increasingly interconnected world, the UN serves as a central platform for addressing global challenges that transcend national boundaries, such as climate change, pandemics, international conflicts. By providing a forum for dialogue and collective action, And the UN helps prevent conflicts, facilitate humanitarian aid, and promote sustainable development. Example: facilitating peace negotiation, mediating conflicts in regions like the Middle East and Africa, coordinating humanitarian aid, responding to natural disasters and refugee crises. And then, what are the roles of the permanent members? The five permanent members of the Security Council, China, France, Russia, and the United Kingdom, and the United States, hold significant influence due to their veto power, allowing any one of them to block substantive resolutions. This power aims to ensure that major military powers are in agreement before the UN takes significant action. However, it has also led to criticisms regarding the Council's effectiveness and calls for reform to reflect the current geopolitical landscape. Example: blocking resolution. A permanent member vetoing a resolution on military intervention, shaping international response, influencing the UN's approach to crises like the Syrian conflict, negotiating major agreements, leading discussions on nuclear non-proliferation treaties. Friends, then you will find the next heading related to this is UNSCR, as we have discussed, and you will find more details about this, the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees. Yes, of course, it's again a UN agency mandated to protect and support refugees, force, forcefully displaced communities, and stateless people. More details are mentioned over there. Then you have next one, UNDP, and this stands for United Nations Development Program, is the UN's global development network again, advocating for change and connecting countries to knowledge, experience, and resource to help people build a better life. And usually it's being operated in about 170 countries and territories. So this is quite useful from exam's perspective. Example: governance reforms, climate change initiatives, economic empowerments and improvements. You'll see all in this. Then a World Trade Organizations, very famous. WTO. It's an international body that deals with the global rules of trade between nations. Its main function is to ensure that trade flows as smoothly, predictably, and freely as possible. The WTO provides a forum for negotiating trades agreements, settling trade disputes, and monitoring national trade policies. Yes, it's very, very important. Almost from all exams perspective, questions on this remain in one or other form. Same you can say is the case with IMF to some extent, International Monetary Fund, which is an organization of 190 countries working to foster global monetary cooperation, secure financial stability, facilitate international trade, promote high employment and sustainable economic growth, and reduce poverty around the world. The IMF provides policy advice, financial assistance, and technical support to its member countries. Yes. Then IDA, International Development Association. You'll find more details again about financial institution that provides loans and grants to the governments of poor countries for the purpose of pursuing capital projects. And the International Development Association IDA is this concessional arm of the World Bank. Is connected to infrastructure projects, health initiatives, educational policies. So we'll cover one topic, and that is UN in a contemporary world. Then probably wind up. Though there are many contents which are quite useful for you people. I want to talk about the UN in a contemporary world. Then contemporary challenges facing the UN: security threats, climate change, pandemics. Actually, in the 21st century, the United Nations confronts multifaceted global challenges that test its capacity and relevance. Security threats have evolved beyond traditional warfare to include cyber attacks, terrorism, and the proliferation of weapons of mass destruction. Climate change poses existential risks, exacerbating natural disasters, threatening food security, and displacing populations. Pandemics like COVID 19 have highlighted the need for coordinated global health responses and exposed weakness in international preparedness. These complex issues require the UN to adapt its strategies and foster greater international cooperations. Examples: security threats, climate action, global health, and yes, the UN's role in a multipolar world is quite interesting, and the power has shifted from a unipolar to bipolar world to a multipolar world with emerging economies like China and other countries. This transition challenges the UN to remain an effective platform for dialogue and cooperation among diverse actors with varying interests. The organization's ability to mediate conflicts, promote development, and uphold international law depends on its adaptability to these changing dynamics. The UN's role in a multipolar world, we have example G20 engagements, BRICS cooperation, regional organizations connected with in one or other form to the UN, all the organizations. Same is the case with like role of major powers in maintaining peace and harmony in the world. I've covered all these contents in this as well, quite useful for the exams point of view. And then we have peacekeeping operations, and then whether UN is really relevant or a vital event. I've discussed on this, is very important, very significant, and I've tried to given reasons for this. And peacekeeping is important. Relevance of UN is important, and lastly, I would talk about analysis about the entire this UN process. Actually, to analyze this UN, all about UN, it is pertinent to understand that there is a great debate on the entire role and functions of the United Nations due to the following reasons. 1. UN was established due to the failure of the League of Nations. Second, the great expectations were dashed of this organization, and then a great deal of debate started as to how the global organization can be established to maintain peace and harmony in the world. And fourth, so the United Nations were established to ensure the peace and harmony is maintained across the world. And fifth, the role of major powers also play a decisive role in making the UN relevant or irrelevant. It's very interesting to see in this post-pandemic and globalized world. Thank you very much for having the patience, and it's useful for those, as I had said at the very outset in the beginning, for all competitive exams, college universities, IS, PCS, Bpsc and all. Thank you so much once again.